All right, everybody, we are back again. It is once again the Written Undead podcast. I'm Jack Childress. Richard Ryan Rose kicking it off on the side. Angelus Maximus hiding out there in Puerto Rico, watching the palm trees in the breeze. This week on the show, our special guest is author of the Archangel Missions series, Joshua Loyd Fox. We're just going to call him Josh. It's a little easier for us country boys. So how are you doing today, good sir?
If I was any better, I'd be twins.
Nice. I'm sure your fans would love to be twins and get twice as many books.
Yeah, that would be. I'd like to have some help writing them.
Well, tell us a little bit about the books. Where did the idea for that series come from?
Man, I'm glad you asked. A lot of people want to know that. So a little bit about me. I'm classically educated in religion studies, just because the school where I was living was a Baptist school, right? And so I'm also a huge fantasy reader, all the way back. David Eddings, Anne McCaffrey, like the old stuff, right?
Nice.
And what I started noticing as I've read these like ancient religious texts, if you read them like in the mindset of reading fantasy and high fantasy, they read the same, right? So I started learning about the archangels, and there's so many cool stories, even like where the archangel of death came through and killed all the children in Egypt except who had the blood over the door. That's a Stephen King plot right there, right? Or the archangel came down and wrestled with Jacob and popped out his hip, but Jacob had him in a chokehold until he got what he wanted. That's so I was like, I was just thinking, if you could put the two together without being preachy. And so one of the best reviews I ever had is the history is fantastic, the religious history. And I don't preach at all, right? There's cussing and sex and homosexuality and everything in it, but the religious stories, are what really get me. And so I was like, well, what if these archangels were coming down to the world and messing with us today, right? What would it look like? And so I started out, as I think any good story should start out, with a love story with some science and stuff, because I'm an aeronautical engineer by trade.
Oh, wow.
And so I just kind of put everything together that I'm interested in, right? They say if there's a book out there that you've never read but you've wanted to, you need to write it. And so that's what got me started. And they weren't supposed to be a series when we first got started. They were individual stories, and all the books are individual stories with like this archangel kind of what's happening in the other planes kind of thing all around it. So the characters are not the same through the books. The world itself is not the same world through all the books. And then the what I'm calling the celestial cataclysm that's happening, these like two realities that are combining. It's even throwing like my God, he's being thrown off. In fact, the last line of Tower is for the father of all creation to not know something was a horrifyingly new feeling.
That would be.
And so, and that's where the idea has just morphed from my own studies and my own love of fantasy to where we are now. So.
Well, heck yeah. Now, how did you wind up going into aeronautics? I mean, what made you decide that was going to be your career path early on?
I wanted to be a pilot after I watched Top Gun in 1991. But I have bad eyes. So when I got out of the when I got out of high school, just life happened, right? And I had to go into the military. I got married young. We got pregnant, and I was like, I can choose a life of struggle or go and risk my life. And 25 years later, I'm still doing it. I work for the largest aerospace company in the world on missile defense. So. That's the day job. That's what pays for the books to where I've gotten with the books. So one day, very, very soon, I'm going to retire from the Department of Defense and do this full time.
What very cool. All right, that's the dream. That's the dream, at least. And absolutely. I see we got Dungeon Dan listening in. What's up, Dungeon Dan? Thank you for listening.
What branch of the military did you serve in?
So I was active duty Air Force. And then I became a contractor for the Navy. I did contract work for the Navy at Pax River in Maryland, right outside D.C. for 12 years. Went back to school, got a degree, and then I became a technical writer and about 5 years ago. So I've worked with the Air Force, the Army, other foreign militaries, Army. I actually run a program for Australia right now. So now I'm just kind of a jack of all trades. It doesn't matter what military it is.
So. Okay, pretty neat, man. So I saw you had written an autobiography. What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, so let me give you a little backstory. 4 years ago, I was not this beautiful man you see before you. I was 325 pounds. I was working on the flight line, turning wrenches. I was in a very emotionally abusive relationship. And I just decided, you know what? I was either going to end things because I couldn't stand my life anymore, or there's going to need to be some drastic changes. So I did, and I do a like a fatherly advice video on TikTok. One of the things I tell everybody is you can't be afraid to completely reinvent yourself. And so
that's correct.
I moved across the country. I lost 140 pounds. But you know what? The night's always darkest right before the dawn, right? It got even worse after I did that move. I got all the way to the bottom of that hole. I'm not afraid to admit it. I put it in the book in the prologue. I made a deal with God and said, listen, you don't fix this stuff today. Like, I'm done. I'm going to end it all. And he's like, well, you know what? I got this other plan for you. I figured the easiest story, and I've always wanted to be a writer, but I never had anything to say. And I felt that the easiest story to start with is the one I know the best, which was my life. And so I'm going to tell you something about writing that autobiography. It was so therapeutic, and I was in therapy while I was writing it. It was almost saving my life as I was trying to write my life. And I'm not even joking, guys. And if you get me to tearing up on this when I talk about it, I always do. But when I wrote the end on my own story, the easiest story to write, when I wrote the end, my entire life changed. I finally had self-worth, self-value. I thought that I had finally given something back to the world. Even if I never did anything with it, I saw myself in a completely different light that day.
Yeah.
And I've been chasing that high ever since. Like, it changed everything. And so, and then I was like, you know what? Literally after I wrote the end, I said, you know what? I've kind of made this routine where I've written every morning before I go to work. Like, let's just keep it going. And 5 novels later, right? So it's a
here you are.
Yeah, here I am. And I can't tell you how I got from there to here other than just daily small steps. You know, they say you can't build the wall of China without a single brick, right? Brick by brick by brick. And that's my days. My days are bricks. And I'm looking back over the last 3 years, and I've got a really big wall, but nowhere near where we're going, you know, so.
Okay.
You're not the first person to ever say that writing was very therapeutic for one reason or the other. And I can attest to that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here.
And you know what's crazy is I've been on this journey that I've never seen this world, right? I've never seen, but I'm telling you, every day I'm in contact with people who are on the exact same road, you know, and it's so funny. And I don't know how it happens, but we get connected. You get connected with who you need to connect with, and I don't think there's any accidents. I think you meet people exactly who you're going to have to meet. But I've met so many people in the exact same place, in the exact same spiritual journey that I'm kind of on. And it's a world that I never was, that I never saw. You know, they say the teacher will not appear until the student's ready, right? You don't see what you're supposed to see until you're ready to see it. And every day it's miraculous how I'm meeting people doing the same thing in the same way, and then we're surrounded by all these like blind people who don't even see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know what it is, but man, it's almost like an attraction to each other. Like, I'm attracted to people magnetically that are doing the same thing in the same way, and you don't feel alone anymore. You're like, oh my God, there's a whole world out there, and now there's like 4,000 of them on my Facebook, and I'm getting messages every day like, I know right what you're doing, you know, keep preaching, keep moving, like, we're with you. And it's I can't even describe it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I totally feel you on that, though. I mean, and sometimes reinventing yourself could be the best thing you ever do in life. Seriously, because I could attest to that too. Because before I met Jack, I was a pure zombie writer, but then I decided to go into historical fiction. I gotta tell you, man, I've been having plenty of success with it. So yeah, reinventing yourself, it's not a bad thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's part of my routine during the day when I wake up in the morning, and I like those billionaire mindsets, right? And they talk about, it starts in the morning. What do you do in the morning? So I'd love to put on a motivational video on YouTube, like TD Jakes or Steve Harvey. That dude's
Harvey. Yeah, he's the man.
He's legit, man. But other ones too. And if you listen long enough to all of them, I mean, we're talking about Les Brown, people who get paid millions of dollars to motivate other people. Oprah, people who are, you wouldn't think you would listen to. They're all saying the same thing. They're all saying how to do it and how they got there. And it's like, okay, let's try this out for a month. And the next thing I know, I'm signing books in a Barnes & Noble with my, novels behind me. And I'm like, how the hell did this happen? And they're saying that. They're like, listen, you just do this and this and this, right, and you're gonna be surprised by where you end up. But you know what, too? There's a flip side to that. I've lost most of my family, most of my friends who had me in my little box, that I was in. And when I started doing something and making something of myself, I lost all of them. So there is a flip side to it. But you know what? Those same people on the motivational videos will tell you that too. Success is a very lonely position, right? But
I mean, don't feel bad, Josh. I mean, I know most of my family as well. I consider Jack, Richard, some of these guys, they're my new family now. So,
absolutely.
You just have to walk into it that way.
Yep. Yeah. They say I lost so much, but I gained so much more. I just put out a TikTok video yesterday saying, I kind of went off the radar for a couple months. I was doing my book signings, and that was taking up most of my summer. But another thing a lot of people don't realize is I was moving from Maryland out to Oklahoma. I met a woman. She's a college professor, fell in love. She has a family out here that's now my family. And I'm literally somewhere I never expected to be, full of even more joy and fullness and happiness than I even expected 2 or 3, 4 months ago. So it's like, oh my God, this has been 3 years. Where the hell am I going to be 3 years from now? Right? I can't even fathom that.
That's where I find myself these days, because it feels like I've been doing this stuff with Richard and Angel, because when we finally went podcast mode, and it wasn't one-on-one interviews, which for the record, Angel was my first interview. Richard was my second interview, and now here they are on the show with me. Yeah. But, it feels like I've been doing this 3-4 years now. And then when I realized, man, you've only been doing this for like a year, but it's because there's been so much activity over the course of that 1 year. It's like I have lived 5 years of my old life in the span of 12 months.
Isn't it fantastic?
So much. It's fantastic. And I know when I added the Adaptive World as my 4th podcast, everybody was like, dude, have you lost your friggin' mind? I mean, seriously, I get up at 5:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. I don't get back home till around 7. Then the weekend comes, and it's like a mad dash to get things done, laundry done, clean up the room, go out and get groceries, and then get back. And then I got to do this show. Then I got this show, and I wouldn't trade it for anything right now.
I was about to say, would you do it any other way now?
No way at all.
I can't even fathom going back. I can't even fathom going back.
Even the silly thing that I do, every show about 30 minutes before we go live, I'll go into, it's not so much a panic, but it's like all that nervous energy just kind of explodes, and I'll jump up and I'll start running around doing stuff. Yeah. And then I'll finally come get settled down, and I'm about half out of breath by the time I sit, and it's like, okay, I'm ready.
Here we go. Routine. That's your routine. That's your routine for success. Yeah. Your recipe for success.
It's funny because Jack does 4 shows. He does this group, this show, the Undead. He does the padded room, the one he does with Jeff Thompson. That's coming in an hour and a half. He does the Adaptive World, like he said, and he does the Anxious Maximus show, which is my podcast, every other Sunday. It won't be this Sunday. It'll be the next one is the next Sunday. So yeah, he does the 4 shows he does. And yeah, I'm really happy for Jack. I'm glad Jack really just took the plunge and just went all in. I'm happy.
So that's why, I mean, Angel actually gave me the opportunity to kind of go back and do some minor edits with him on King Minos book 2. And that was so much fun. because it was like I felt like I was getting that key to the city kind of a thing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can go in here, you know. It's like, aha, look at all this.
Uh-oh.
You're
And
gonna learn a new
It's
you're
like
gonna learn a
sorcery.
new skill set. Yeah.
It's like
That's what
sorcery.
That's what I'm working on. You know, if I could ever find a way out of that hot during the summer, cold during the winter warehouse,
I know, man.
I would take it all day. But you know,
I
like
haven't quit my day job yet either. So
I think that's
Yeah.
the dream for all of us. Of course,
Yeah,
Richard, he's about to retire, so he. You know.
Yeah, I know. He nutty. I just got the blessings of my parents. I take care of them. I'm their caretaker, so I'm home most of the time.
yeah.
Now, John, I'm going to ask you a question. How did you get your books into Barnes and Noble? How was the process of doing that?
Okay, so here's where my ability to be one of my biggest, besides reading and writing and stuff, is I can research anything. Like I'm a researcher. Like that's my top skill. I can find anything. I should have been. Everybody tells me I should have been a police detective or something. So I started researching a couple of years ago how publishers get books into Barnes and Noble. Because at the time I'd written my autobiography and it was available where indie authors always put their books. KDP, maybe BN Press, Book Baby, Ingram Spark, all free platforms. Well, Ingram Spark is $50 a book, but those are all slightly free platforms that you could they'll print your books out. You'll get copies of them in the mail, hand them out to your friends. And you're an indie author who sells 20 books and there's your life. Right. And so I was like, you know what, that's not good enough for me. So I wanted to research how the Big Five interacts with Barnes and Noble and how they get the books in there. So I started learning things about, there's always one person in every single Barnes and Noble store who does liaisons with publishers and the community. They're actually called a community liaison manager. Most Barnes and Nobles now have gotten rid of that position, and now they have like an assistant manager who does it and puts on. I think now they're like the party planner or the they do the signings and the book releases and stuff like that. So I literally came here to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was in the local Barnes and Noble store, and of course I've been on Barnes & Noble Press for a couple of years. So people have always been able to walk into a Barnes & Noble and order my books, but they're called print on demand, and they have to either be shipped to the store or delivered to their house. So for about 3 years, you could walk into any Barnes & Noble and order my book. Most indie authors, you can do that. But I was like, that's just not good enough for me. So I was in my local Barnes & Noble, and I met a woman named Beth Hudson. And Beth Hudson is the assistant manager of the local Barnes & Noble here. And I was just like, literally, I had this mindset. I would rather be rejected than have regret, right?
Wow.
The fear of rejection is lower than the fear of regret in my mind. I don't want to die on my deathbed going, why did I just not talk to somebody or ask permission or just say, hey, how do I do this? So Beth and I started talking. She goes, you know what, let me look you up in the computer. And if I can get your books in like delivered to me, we'll set you up a signing. Like, no problem. We'd love to do that for local authors. I was like, okay. So she looked me up, and for some reason my books were labeled as non-returnable. And they're like, yeah, we normally don't order in books for non-returnable. And I said, well, who says it's non-returnable? And she said, okay, let me look. It's Lightning Source. Lightning Source is a company with Ingram. And I'm like, I've never had an Ingram account. What the hell's going on here? So I started emailing some people and getting some people's names at headquarters Barnes and Noble, which is in New York. And then I met some people in their distribution office in New Jersey. Again, research, right? Give me a name and a number. I'll call anybody. I don't care. And next thing I know, I got that non-returnable status taken off my name. And I go back into Beth at the local Barnes & Noble, and I said, okay, hey, it's off there now. What can we do? She goes, I'm going to order 40 of your books. You're going to do a book signing, and we're going to advertise it all over social media. And I drove back to Maryland, and I was coming out here. This was in the beginning of May. And I had my first signing, and it was not, I'm not Stephen King or Brandon Sanderson. Nobody lined up out the door. But enough people came in, and I sold all the books that they had ordered in, right? Just me and myself. talking to people walking in the front door. So next thing I know, we took that success, and I met one of the Barnes and Noble headquarter booksellers. And he said, "Hey, I heard you sold 100% of your books at that signing." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Set up some more signings." So I drove to Amarillo. There's another Barnes & Noble here in Tulsa. There's Barnes & Noble in Dallas, the one in Colorado. Called up the same Beth Hudson at every one of them, that same person in that position. Mm-hmm. And they're more than happy to help you, more than happy. So then I started, this was literally, I'm talking beginning of June now. I said, you know what, this isn't good enough for me. I want my books in your stores. How do I do that? And they're like, we do that all the time. It's called consignment. So indie authors are able to sign a consignment contract with Barnes & Noble that if they bring in their books to like 3 or 4 or 5 stores and they sell, they'll keep ordering them. So now I've created my own publishing company called Water Tower Hill Publishing. So Joshua Loyd Fox is not my real name. It's actually, my name is Joshua Loyd, but Fox is my mother's maiden name. I go by my father's name. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to say it. A lot of the people know my name, but I have to protect, because in my autobiography, I change people's names and I have to protect them. But now Barnes & Noble is carrying Joshua Loyd Fox books, and when they put them into a store and they sell, they start ordering more. And so Barnes & Noble has 641 stores that's divided up into about 18 districts. And if you'll sell in one store in one district, the whole district gets your books. You just get into the circulation. So my last signing I did here in Tulsa again, but at the other store, we sold out 60 something books, and Stephen King didn't even sell that many books that day in that store. Now it's just one store in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I outsold Stephen King in that store that day. And Brandon Sanderson and everybody else
wonderful.
There.
Hey, no matter what, that's you can brag about that all the time. That's good, man. Wonderful.
And then and so when that happened, about the same time, my last book, book 3, To Build a Tower, got a best-selling ribbon on Amazon. And when you have that, Amazon will put your books into their catalog, and they'll do a little adverts for you. And then it allows you to put A+ content on your book page.
Yep.
And so it hasn't costed me much money, but it's costed me a lot of time and research and putting myself out there, making a ton of phone calls. But I'm telling you guys, I've learned this whole new skill set. Water Tower Hill Publishing is going to kick off soon, and I'm going to start doing this exact same thing for other indie authors. I only needed to succeed one time. I needed to succeed one time, and that creates a track record. So
that's sweet, man. That's sweet.
That's how as an indie author I got into Barnes & Noble.
Wonderful, man.
That is good to know.
So when do you think the publishing company is going to really take off and you start getting indie authors?
So we're looking at office space nearby. I put in for a business loan. I really want to do this. I really want to do it seriously. And I'm seeing the growth in the small amount of time that I've been doing this. I owe it, right? I mean, I can't stop now. And so we're going to kick off March 1st, the 2023, the day that the new book releases in paperback. I'm cutting a ribbon on Water Tower Hill Publishing. So,
yeah, man. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be following you for that journey, man. I think I got you on Facebook already. That's a Facebook.
Yeah, you do. And you got to do it. You got to do it the right way, and that takes a little bit of money. So I started with a IRS EIN or employer identification number, and then you just build from there, step by step by step. So
nice job, man. Now, Josh, you got a book series out, right? What can you give us an idea what it's about without spoiling it? Give us a little.
Yeah. We can talk about what's coming down. So I actually have them. I don't know if I could show them here. there's.
No, I see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen your covers on 9 actually. So yeah.
Yeah, but, and I've just been blessed having a really fantastic artist. I have a new artist coming on now. She did the same cover for Jennifer's book. So D's going to start picking up my artwork. Book 4 of the series releases March 1st. It's called One Becomes a Thousand. It's about a guy that I call the Fate Maker. He has the ability to change not only his fate, but the fate of people around him. And on the cover, I put a guy like with cash raining down on him because, of course, if you can change fate, wouldn't you make yourself win the lottery or something?
Right. Sure.
So he's my character in that, and then it's going to go to 8 books. There's a picture on not only my Facebook but also on the group that shows the names of all 8 books. Little bit of hints here. There's 15 human protagonists and there's 15 archangels. Little hint if anybody can figure out what I'm going to do with that. But the 8th book is going to be the Book of Armageddon, so the end of everything. And there, as anything like in the fantasy world that leads up to a war, there's probably going to have to be some sacrifice. There's probably going to have to be some. We're going to lose some favorite characters, and then it's going to culminate with basically everything imploding and then becoming a new creation. So that's the end of the kind of without giving away too much on it.
Fair enough.
That's going to be the 8th book.
Man. I think I'm going to have to start your books soon. I got a few hours ahead of you, but I'm going to be starting them pretty soon.
You know, one of the things about doing everything that I've done, and this is really important because a lot of indie authors want to know how I've gotten where I've gotten, but I'm going to tell you the one key tool that I've used, and I hate to self-plug this, but my books are actually really good. So the people who read them are like, holy shit, these are commercially viable. Like they read well, they're well edited, they're the story, the plot, the pacing, right? I did my due diligence on writing good books.
You should.
And I can tell people how I did it, right? I could tell people the steps I took, but I can't tell them how to write a good book.
Exactly. That's up to them.
Yeah. And so sometimes, and I've helped a lot of young writers in this last 3 years. I can teach the tools, but I can't teach natural ability, natural talent.
It's the craft.
Yeah, the qual, right? I can't teach the qual.
Yeah, craft. The actual crafting of the story, you can't teach that, right?
Yep. Stephen King said in his book on writing, he said, writers come in 3 categories. You've got horrible writers, good writers, and fantastic writers. He said a good writer can become a fantastic writer, but usually bad writers can never become a good writer and definitely not a fantastic writer. There's a natural ability in writing a book, in telling a story.
And that's the catch-22, unfortunately, because some people, I know they want to be writers, but you got to have that natural talent. Some people are just not born with it. It sucks, but it's possible to build it up. You know what I mean? You know, it's quite possible if you got the technical skills.
Well, you have to. It's like a muscle, right? You have the ability to write, but if you're not reading, if you're not honing your craft, if you're not writing every day. Stephen King one time he gave an interview one time, and they said, "Do you write every day?" And this was early on in his career. And he said, I write every single day except Christmas and my birthday. And then later on, they asked him the same question. He goes, you know what? I gave this answer. And I said, I write every day except Christmas and my birthday. But I'll be honest, I write on Christmas and my birthday, too. You know, as long as you're doing something every day towards your craft, towards your purpose. But again, you know, I can't make a really bad writer into an even a competent one. You know, nobody can do that.
You can't. That's up to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something there. Josh, do you, when you're writing a book, do you do a lot of prep work beforehand? Do you outline it and put, do a bunch of putting things together and research and whatnot, or do you just start writing the book and just kind of develop it as you go along?
You know, so they have classifications for writers, right? I'm an intuitive pantser. Pretty much I don't know what I'm going to write when I sit down to write that day. However, what I've started learning is being an intuitive pantser is great, right? It's like watching a new movie every day. It keeps me interested in stuff. But if I don't outline a little bit, if I don't research a little bit, I'm bogging myself down. And so what I've started doing as an intuitive pantser as I want to be, there are some things that, because I'm very scientifically minded and there's a lot of science in my books, I need to do my due diligence and study and research. And so I'm doing this hybrid thing now where like I'm actually sitting down. I've now kind of, I know the names of the books for the rest of the series. I kind of know the characters I'm going to need, and I kind of know the big themes of the books. I can't tell you what's going to happen in them. I don't sit down and actually outline the story. That's where I'm still a pantser. But if I don't prepare myself a little bit, it's all chaos, and I have to fix the chaos in editing, and that's a horrible experience. So another thing too, it's not just the story, the plot, the theme, stuff like that. I actually have a pre-made format in a Word document for headers and footers, my cover page, my title page, because it took me so long to learn how to actually format each of my books, and it took me so long to do each one. And I'm like, I'm not going to keep this up. I'm not going to spend 2 weeks formatting my books from like another Word document. So what I do is I write my story every day in like a regular 8.5 by 11 page, double spaced, and then I move it over into my formatted file. And that's even more preparation I've done, because and when we did that with Tower, editing went from like 4 months down to like 4 weeks. It was crazy how fast the editing process went. And we also changed from doing Word track changes, and we started doing it in Google Docs. So she would edit in the evening, and the next morning I would come in and approve or change or add to. And so instead of giving my entire manuscript to her and then waiting for my entire manuscript to come back with the edit suggestions, we were doing it in real time. And I would move those chapters into my pre-formatted format. And by the time it was ready, I had a printable file in both PDF and Word to just send out wherever I needed to send it out. So I've become tons more organized as each book goes on. And I'm able to put up, because I don't have as much time to write now because I'm doing all this other stuff. So I have to stay organized. So fantastic question, because it's evolved to where I love to say that I'm an intuitive pantser, because I think those are the coolest kind of writers. But I'm like an intuitive pantser that's organized. So if that makes any kind of sense.
So you plot your stories, right? To a degree?
To a degree. So what I do, like for instance, the story that I'm writing right now, my work in progress, it has 7 sections, seven different parts. And I wrote those parts, like the names of those parts out before I started the story. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how many chapters or what's going to happen in those, but I have those parts done. And so, and then I started writing these intermissions, like archangel missions, intermissions. And there's 2 of them in each book now. And it basically takes the story, or it takes the book out of the story and puts it into the spiritual realm and what's going on there. Like in my last book, spoiler alert, I killed an archangel. I killed her off. And it was actually the archangel of death, Azrael. I just killed her. And so I didn't know how that was going to happen. It shocked everybody that was reading along, like my beta team. And I got so many like angry emails from my beta team after that I wrote that chapter. And I was like, I loved it so much, getting that reaction from people for killing off an archangel. I'm like, I'm doing this shit all the time. Like, I'm going to do some just crazy stuff. And then everybody started sending me the writer memes like, oh, there's a character you like? Why don't I just murder them? You know? And so now I'm just like, now I see why writers do it. I love the reaction from the readers. So I don't know if I answered your question there, but yeah, I plot at least a general framework, and then I just let the story develop. Like I watch the story develop along with my readers. You know, I never know what, like Creo, he's my character right now. He's over fighting in Afghanistan as a Marine. I didn't know the guy was going to become a Marine. It just worked. So,
well, now while I was gone during the lightning bolt, issue. And
Right.
of course, the storm's just now getting here, so I can't promise that we don't get popped again. But did anybody happen to ask Jeff's question about what does selling in Barnes and Noble do to Kindle Unlimited membership?
No,
Okay.
it popped up when it popped up when you got on.
Yeah. So Jeff, if Jeff is watching, let me answer that for you. So the only reason I was affected by Kindle Unlimited is I cannot sell ebooks in Barnes and Noble. So my books cannot go on the Nook. I think that's the Barnes and Noble ebook. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
so to be a Kindle Unlimited member, or have your books on Kindle Unlimited, and I made that decision very early on. My ebooks are not available in Barnes and Noble. So my ebooks can only be read on the Kindle through Kindle Unlimited, and I did that because people who have Kindle Unlimited get them for free, and then they can also trade it. When you go and you make your selections, this gets into like the nuts and bolts of being a publisher. When you make your selections on worldwide distribution, unlimited distribution, when you price your books, all these selections you make on KDP, you have to be so careful, because remember, going back to saying that Barnes and Noble couldn't sell my books because they were unreturnable. The reason they were unreturnable is because I selected worldwide distribution, like unlimited distribution, to sell all over the world. And I was like, hell yeah, my books are going to be everywhere. It cut me off at my knees to sell them in the stores. And a lot of indie authors don't understand what sounds good while you're making your selections ridiculously hampers you when you start growing. So I've had to also, and then I got into the world of copyright, and all my books are in the Library of Congress. I have a Library of Congress control number. And what that means, that's a whole nother ball of wax, fellas. Like getting into the Library of Congress, you got to have your shit straight. And so you've got to do your due diligence on researching or finding out if you have a goal. And my goal was to be in Barnes & Noble. I wanted to walk in. For 15 years, every time I walk into Barnes & Noble, I've pictured my books on the front table. Before I wrote a word, I saw my books on the front table at Barnes & Noble. I walked into a Barnes & Noble on my birthday this year and saw my books on a front table. And I did a goddamn TikTok right there.
Hell yeah.
Like, I wanted people to see me.
As you should.
Yeah. And so I reached a goal. But guys, I wouldn't have reached that goal if I hadn't just completely learned as much about the industry. I mean, I literally like forced people to sit down and talk to me, because indie authors get a really bad rep in the book selling world.
Yes,
right?
We do.
And it's because indie authors put out a lot of shitty books. I'm sorry to say, but they do, right? Very unprofessional covers. They can't pay for editing. They can't pay for, a good artist and stuff. They can only do what they can do on Fiverr or with their own stuff.
Yeah, and Josh, and I hate to cut you off, and cover is so important.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Especially when I write knit RPG. I'm a knit RPG often. Covers are even more important in that particular genre. Jack would know as well.
But let me tell you this. I bet you didn't know is that if you have a book on white paper, they won't sell it in a Barnes & Noble store. It has to be cream 60 weight. It has to be, because it's not professional otherwise. You have to have an imprint logo. So I had to go get logos made. You have to have a copyright page that lists all of your copyrights and your permissions. And I mean, you have to get a lawyer to basically write that thing for you. So if you want to be a professional book writer and sell at the highest level, you need to have a professionally done book that sells at that level, or they're just going to laugh you out of the store. And so if I hadn't gone to Barnes & Noble with a completely professional book that I spent so much time and energy and some money on, they would have laughed me right out of the store. But I'm like, no. This isn't Joshua Loyd Fox, indie author. This is Water Tower Hill Publishing letting you sell my books. And when you approach it with that mindset, like, hey, listen, we're all here to sell books, right? Barnes & Noble wouldn't exist if they didn't sell books. I have some quality books you can make some money off of. Win-win. That's a business acumen that most people don't have, especially indie authors who are afraid of the world. So I'm just not afraid of anything. I'm like, listen, if you don't give me a seat at the table, I'm going to build my own table. And that's what I did.
Well, we got a big Hiya coming in, and she didn't do the little permissions thing, but that's DJ Cooper. She has Angry Eagle Publishing, as well as quite a few books under her belt as well. We like to call her the boss lady.
Oh, is that
so
D?
Hello, D. That's D.
I actually just entered into talks with her to do all my artwork, which is on the Archangel missions with the adverts and the cover releases and I do clip art on the chapters, like kind of like Robert Jordan did in The Wheel of Time. So she has a lot of work ahead of her if she agrees to take me on. So.
Well, I know she is super talented in so many different ways. It's just awesome. Oh, we got a question for you here. So I have a question for Joshua. What the hell
is the font?
Yes.
So D, apparently I own the copyright to that font, and it was created by my last artist. so I'm gonna try to get it for you. I got to talk to Rogue. Rogue Blackwood was my former artist, and just from a business sense, we had to part ways. She was contracted to do 4 covers, and she did 4 covers. So, but yeah, D, we that may be something I'm going to have to pay you a ton of money to fix or come up with your own, because I'm not sure. There's no name for it. I think she created it. So,
I think you had her at a ton of money.
Custom.
I had her at a ton of money. Well, yeah, grow with me, right? We're going to grow together.
That's right. Rising tide raises all ships.
That's right.
That's the thing too, guys, that I've noticed. For instance, when Jennifer reached out a couple of months ago about doing this podcast interview today, I was like, you know what? I'm all about cross promotional. You hook me up, I'm hooking you up. And so when she gave me an invite to the group, I invited 500 people from my own platform. I'm like, if you're going to put me out there and spend your time and effort and energy, and I respect the hell out of what you guys are doing here. If you're going to give me your time, I'm going to hook you up too. So we're gonna get. I don't like your view numbers on YouTube. Those are rookie numbers. We need to get those numbers up. So
absolutely,
I'm all about doing that. And again, in the last 3 years, guys, and I tell people all the time, I'm more blessed than I deserve. I also just don't know how I got here, and in 3 years, you're going to be in the same place. So. And that's how you do it.
The thing about it, Josh, is that you never gave up, though. I mean, you have dark beginning to the story, but you never gave in, and that's the key.
It's absolutely the key.
Because I suffer from PTSD ever since Hurricane Maria hit my island. I've been pretty depressed, but I do the best I can to not let it get the best of me. So,
and the rest of us, we stay on his butt too. We don't let him get too down on himself. We remind him just how awesome he is.
Angel, let's get serious real quick, and I'll give a trigger warning to anybody watching. Okay, so and you guys can read this in my autobiography, and I'm actually going to write a sequel to that because a lot of people want to know what happened next. So I had a tough childhood. I lost my parents when I was 8. I got put into the system. I grew up in a couple of boys' homes, and some bad stuff happened, right? And I didn't take responsibility for my childhood as an adult. I let it affect my decisions. I let it affect my own children. Yeah. I let it affect my relationships. Yeah, and I got down in the bottom of that hole 2 times, man. 2 times I tried to end it all, and the first time my life was saved by God, and the second time by these books. And so you can't give up, kid. You can't. And I call you that because I have 7 kids. So I'm adopting you, all of you. So, but it's not only not giving up. You have a responsibility to yourself to fix the things that affect your life now. And so when I started doing that, and I'm not gonna lie, I cried for like 3 solid days, and that let me sleep for the first time in 30 years. I started this interview saying I'm a completely different man today than I was 4 years ago. This guy didn't exist, and it's because I sought out the therapy, I sought out prayer and meditation.
Exactly.
I did the work, guys. I did the work, and I'm reaping the benefits. So I'm diagnosed with something called complex PTSD. So it's like PTSD, but it's like PTSD, but it's like every day of your childhood. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, what I have is natural disaster PTSD from a natural disaster.
Okay.
So, but but yeah, I mean, what you go through is even worse. So yeah,
don't compare. Right. Don't ever compare hardships or whatever. You're 100% have the right to do everything you need to do for you and your life and stuff. Right. I can't compare my struggles with anybody else.
That's what we yeah. What Jack always gets in my butt for, man. You don't realize I'm both Jack and not, and Richard too once in a while.
Once in a while.
Well, you know what?
I'm not killing you in my books.
DM me your address or something, and I'll send you my first book, because it has a lot of at the back of it. I put a lot of resources and stuff for people that need to heal from PTSD. From the military, we all had PTSD, right?
Right.
I still wake up with nightmares. I was telling my girlfriend this morning, I had some nightmares last night that just surprised the shit out of me. I'm like, and anytime a stressful situation is coming up the next day, it's like my mind wants to booby trap me or set me up for failure. Yeah. Right. So I have to do the things that I learned in therapy and stuff to be here today, to be myself, to even be aware and present, right? I'm present. I'm here right now. My mind's here. I'm feeling good. And if I would have let anything, like when I woke up this morning feeling kind of down and the weird dreams and stuff, I wouldn't be here with you great guys. So I would have found a reason to cancel.
Right. Yeah, you did good, man. Very good.
Glad you didn't cancel. Absolutely. My biggest thing is I am
enjoying talking to you, Jack. I mean, Josh, I am enjoying this conversation right now.
Me too.
Really am.
And like I said, guys, when you're on this journey, you start meeting these people that are just like, where'd they come from? How'd that happen?
Yeah,
how did I learn that? Yeah, I mean, there's no coincidences.
Now, Josh, yeah. Okay. So, do you plan to get into any other genres later on in your career?
Yeah, so my books, it's really funny. Each one of my books can actually be, I mean, they're all dark urban fantasy, right? That's what the genre is. But each story, I feel, because I started with a love story and then a serial killer book, and then I ended the world in the third book. And in this one, he's a fate maker and winning the lottery and doing all this cool shit. My next one's a Western. The one after that is an ancient historical book. The Watcher's Song is about the angels that were down here on Earth watching, and they ended up sleeping with the human women and having seraphim and stuff, which is crazy too. So within my stories, I don't want to be. I never want to be roped into a single genre. Like I'll never be like a high fantasy writer only, because I like mystery, I like cliffhangers, I like science fiction. I love to read everything, so I think that I'm going to end up writing everything. Okay. And I'm compared to Neil Gaiman a lot, because that's exactly what he does.
Right.
When you get a new Neil Gaiman book, you don't know what the hell you're getting. So and I like that. I like that because it matches who I am in my personality. So,
well, see, that's a lot of the fun that I'm having when I get to read Richard's books, because you start the first book and it's a buddy tale. You've got Sasquatch and a human that become best friends, and then the zombies get thrown into it. And so you're thinking, okay, here's another zombie series. Yeah. But no, it's not another zombie series, because they are temporary. And then by the time you get to the prequel, now we've got the Rougarou, which are Cajun werewolves. And with the next thing, you never know what he's going to throw in as you go. It's just always a new surprise, something fresh, a new obstacle to get over the top of. And they're so good. They're just so good.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to read your books.
Oh, most definitely do. Like I said, trust me, there's not one out there like his.
Yeah, Richard's book, you're in for a treat.
So, and I think Richard will attest to this. When you're writing something unique, that maybe readers haven't really caught on to yet. And J.K. Rowling found this because Harry Potter was rejected 40 something times, right? Who would reject Harry Potter, what we know now? But you read about it all the time. But when you start writing something unique that the world hasn't seen yet, and it sounds like your kind of books are pretty unique, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle for readers. You're going to struggle for market attention. But when it catches on, now, just like J.K. Rowling, you become a trailblazer, right? So you got to do the struggle. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable at the beginning, and then when you get that lucky break, Denzel Washington says, if you hang around the barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. You're going to get a lucky break. Somebody is going to read something and go, hey, there might be something here. And Richard, you're just waiting for your lucky break, man. That's all it is. The next thing you know, I'm going to be like, hey, I knew that guy when, right? I knew him when, we were talking on a podcast that had, 15 viewers. So when you're writing something unique, you just got to know you're trailblazing, and the trailblazing is always uncomfortable. But when people catch on, it's wildfire after that.
Right.
I appreciate it, man. I hope you're right.
So somebody asked, do you think that mixing genres confounds the algorithm for a pen name?
And that's D.
I mean, in my opinion, it does, because I used to write zombie fiction under my Angel Ramon pen name, but I made a pivot towards historical fiction and RPG, so I had to come up with a whole new pen name so it doesn't mix, because it's two totally different types of stories. Two very different styles, and sometimes the algorithm won't like that, because I tend to get more sales in my historical fiction since it appeals to a wider market.
Yeah. So let me tell you how you beat this.
Okay.
You don't brand your books or your genre; you brand your name. And so here's what I mean by that.
Okay.
You guys ever heard of Stephen King?
Mm-hmm.
He's written horror, but he's written high fantasy. Do you know the Gunslinger series?
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of it?
Yeah.
It's a fantasy series. It's a 6-book fantasy series. But nobody knows that it's genred under fantasy, that it's not horror, right? They know Stephen King. They know that name. So what you want to do when you first start out is, a lot of people don't know that I write the Archangel Mission series. A lot of people don't know that the Archangel Mission series is a best-selling series right now. But if you ask anybody on my platform or that read any of my books, hey, have you heard of this Joshua Loyd Fox guy? That's how you know. You start off branding your name, getting your name everywhere. If you guys Google search Joshua Loyd Fox right now, it comes up the exact same way Stephen King does, because I'm a public figure according to Google. I don't know how I got that. I don't know what happened. So many people hit my website or whatever. But I branded my name from the very beginning. I actually started as JL Fox, and then JL Fox wasn't catching on, because every time I ran a search for it, I was getting Michael J. Fox or somebody like that. But you Google search Joshua Loyd Fox, and you're going to get to all of my books, no matter what the genre is. They're all listed right at the top in order by year of publication. So you beat the algorithms for a pen name, not by genre. Don't be a horror writer. Don't be a zombie writer. Be Richard Rose. Be Joshua Loyd Fox. Be Stephen King, and brand your name. And then it doesn't matter what you write. It'll pop up when your name is searched. That's how you beat that.
Well, now, since we're kind of talking about Richard here anyway, there's something that we go way back on, and that was his very first book cover. Have you ran into a situation at any point as you've been putting your books out where Amazon was like, yeah, you're going to need to do something to that cover because we're not really okay with the look and the theme and all of that? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. So when I first put out Had I Not Chosen, trying to see if I have a copy around here. So I did a different cover. I did a Fiverr cover. Just hired somebody in like Nigeria for $100 to do a cover for me. And we kept having to resubmit it to Amazon because Amazon kept kicking it back because of the sizing, and also because like the barcode box was wrong. So Amazon and KDP and Ingram Spark, they all have their own sizing guidelines and formatable guidelines. Your font, And also embedded within your files, you can't have any encryption on it. You can't have any tags on it. I mean, and if I wasn't a coder for my job, I wouldn't know how to take some of those tags and stuff off of within Word or within PDF. So yeah, if you don't have a professional artist, if you don't have a professional cover designer, if you don't, as everything else in life, you get what you pay for. So if you don't put a little bit of cash behind it, Amazon will never accept it. So yeah, we had a lot of issues in the very beginning, and it was a learning curve. Everything we've done has been a learning curve. I don't know how long I have sat on KDP with that damn little circle going, waiting for them to reject everything. And then when it comes back after 30 minutes of waiting, I gotta change all my gutters on all 340 pages. You know what I mean? How many times have you resubmitted a file on KDP?
Not many a times.
Yeah. So you get what you pay for, and now knowing all of that, and I'm sure you probably don't have a problem now, right? But at the beginning, we all had that same issue, and Amazon and all them, they want to work with consummate professionals, not amateur indie authors, and you get a bad rep if you don't do your work, you know.
Yeah, I had a professional do my covers and everything, so I didn't run into having to take tags off, or I was able to size them just fine. But I had to go through some iterations just to get it approved. But the biggest problem I had was they wouldn't do Amazon ads because my cover was too violent, so I had to redo that cover and spend another $1,500.
Yep,
which is ridiculous because the cover was gorgeous.
But here's the thing about that. So I don't let Amazon set my ads. I have my artist, my professional artist. It was Rogue Blackwood. I'm hoping D will do it now. But my artist creates my ads, and Amazon is privileged enough to use them. That's how I look at it. I don't see these big conglomerate websites and companies and stuff as something that's not attainable. I've always had this mind. I don't know where the hell I get it from. I'm not afraid of anything. Like I said, if they won't give you a seat at the table, build your own damn table. And when I started doing that, and I created Water Tower Hill Publishing, and Joshua Loyd Fox and Joshua XXX is the owner of Water Tower Hill. I'm two different people on paper, two completely different people. I work for myself. And I paid myself in advance with my last book, because on paper and traceable through the bank accounts and stuff, it looks like the publisher and the author are two different people. I'm kind of cheating the system a little bit, but you know what? So did Brandon Sanderson with his Kickstarter that made $55 million.
Yeah.
He's cheating the system. He doesn't have to traditionally publish the rest of his life because of that. You're a trailblazer, and when you're a trailblazer, as soon as it catches, it's going to be wildfire. I'm telling you. And you see people like Sanderson and Rowling and some of these people, they change the entire industry, and the industry doesn't like it. But you know what? The readers are who pays for the industry. So what the readers want, the readers get.
Right.
Heck yeah. Well, man, we're definitely going to have you back on again. We got
to get you back on.
Crazy as it sounds, we've actually reached the end of the hour. That flew by.
That
just flew by, man. Yeah. And I know you dropped some serious knowledge today, and that was fantastic.
Very good. I enjoyed it, Josh. I really did.
Absolutely. I mean, put this one in the vault and let people watch it. And you know what? Like I said, I've had a lot of people asking me, even in a small amount of time, how did I get from A to B? And you just step by step, right? So I think I really am thinking about doing these how-to videos, and any way that you can monetize your writing, you should. So,
absolutely. Well, I like to wrap the show the same way every week. So we're going to start off this week with Angelus Maximus. My brother, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Amazon, Angelus Maximus. You can find me on my Facebook group, The Legionnaires of Angelus Maximus. And I have a Patreon running that you can read my current book in King Minos 3 as it's being written. And I do have a copy of King Minos 2 on paperback. As you can see, it looks really, really nice. $25 for a signed paperback. And I'm also doing a giveaway in my group as well. So you can go check that out.
which is very awesome. Anybody gets their hands on that book is going to be super, super happy. Richard Ryan Rose, where are you hiding?
You can find me on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. You can also find me on my website, richardrrose.com, and you can go on there and join my MailChimp audience and get my monthly newsletter.
Awesome. All right, Joshua, it has been a wonderful, wonderful time with you today. Like I said, we're going to try to get you back again because I can tell there's so much more information you could just drop on everybody.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about Bella. We didn't talk about a lot of stuff. So,
I'm definitely going to be, just so you can see, I got the old journal right here. So we'll get you back into that thing. And would you believe we're actually booked all the way to almost February? That's crazy.
You're killing it, man. Where are you going to be a year from now, right?
There's no telling at this point.
So,
we'll be broadcasting from the moon.
You're going to have to wait.
Yeah, and then I'm going to get to say I knew them when.
Right on. All right, well, just a quick recap. Let everybody know where to go find you.
Yeah, just Google Joshua Loyd with one L, Fox, Fox. Google me. I'm everywhere now. So
awesome. Well, for Richard Ryan Rose, Angelus Maximus, Joshua Loyd Fox. Unfortunately, Jennifer wasn't able to make it back from her trip to Ohio in time, but we'll be seeing her in the padded room here very soon. We will catch you guys next week. Until then, everybody stay safe, keep uplifted, and keep fighting on. We'll talk to you then.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.